It's now time for our very last session of the day. Transitions, travels, and tantrums, oh my. Help for you, peace for your child. Our speakers for this session is Carmen Garcia BAAS and Kayla Schlarb. I hope I pronounced those correctly. Carmen is an early intervention specialist and has been with the Early Child Intervention Program for 11 years. Today, she serves currently as an enrollment specialist for ECI program at MetroCare. Kayla is a behavioral support fellow at MetroCare Center for Children with Autism. She's passionate about working with individuals with autism, and she's been doing so for 8 years as a special education teacher and registered behavioral technician in the clinical school and home setting. Today, Carmen and Kayla will be showing us how to navigate the tantrums and bring on the calm. Ladies, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon and hello, families. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to our partners at the Warren Center for hosting this incredible event for us all to connect with one another. My name is Carmen Garcia, and I am a bilingual early intervention specialist service coordinator with the Early Childhood Intervention Program at MetroCare Services, also known as ECI program. At ECI of MetroCare, we provide case management and developmental therapy support to infants and toddlers with developmental delays or disabilities from the time of birth until the baby turns 3 years of age. I'd like to introduce my colleague and partner in today's presentation, Ms. Kayla Schlarb, who is a behavior support fellow with the Center for Children with Autism at MetroCare Services. Our center offers quality applied behavior analysis, also known as ABA services in Dallas and DeSoto, Texas. Our goal is to lead each child to his or her potential through evidence-based therapy founded on the principles of ABA, including verbal behavior. If you're interested in learning more about our programs, visit us at our website at www.metrocareservices.org. Well, thank you so much. And now we are going to go ahead and have Ms. Kayla start us off with transitions, travel, and tantrums. Oh my.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carmen. So to start off with, we want to just kind of discuss what a transition is. And so typically we define it as a change from one activity or setting to another. And they have been reported to be difficult for our kiddos with autism or any other developmental disability. Transitions often occasion problem behavior. Why do they occasion problem behavior? We see that signals a change in routine. So it's not the same for the norm. So we have also like minor transitions. So our minor transitions are going to be more maybe from activity to activity. Maybe it's that bedtime routine. Maybe it's dinner to bedtime. Maybe it's in the morning getting ready for school. So we often see some minor challenges in those settings. And then we have our major transitions. Major transitions are going to be more of what most of you are probably about to experience with our babies leaving summer break and going back to school. That's going to be a major transition for them, even if they've done it before. But it's that change in routine. So we often look at transitions as any kind of change in routine that might throw our kiddos off. So again, why do they occasion problem behavior? That routine, that need for sameness, that goes out the window for them. And if you think about adults as well, say maybe when we come back from vacation, we're struggling, we have to get back to that routine of work and things like that. So of course that can also be difficult for our kiddos as well. We know that a lot of our kiddos don't often like to leave a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity. So if our kids are hanging out at home and they're playing the tablet, well, of course, maybe like no more tablet, it's time for bed. That might be a little bit difficult. So that can often bring about some of the problem behaviors. A lot of the times we can see that it's communication deficits. I mean, babies don't even have a set repertoire yet of words. And so babies communicate by crying. Same thing for little kiddos. They might not know how to express what's bothering them. They might not have learned how to express what's bothering them yet. And then same thing with that understanding. So there can be what we see as like receptive language delays. So what we tell our kiddos they might not quite understand that either. So there's not really like an end in sight for them. The unpredictability, it breaks that pattern. We are creatures of habit. So especially for a kid, breaking that pattern it's unpredictability. So it's really hard for them. Same thing with babies. If babies have a breakdown in maybe like a feeding schedule, a napping schedule, our babies get cranky. That's very normal for them. And then we see things just like maybe some sensory issues, large crowds, if we're not used to that, new noises, loud noises, bright lights. So a lot of those things can often trigger that anxiety and that overwhelmingness for our kiddos as well. And the important thing to remember is that's not our kid giving us a hard time, it's that our baby is having a hard time. So we want to just do what we can to support them, and that's what we're going to try and help you guys with in this presentation. So the topics that we're going to talk about are going to be.
Thank you, Ms. Kayla. I would like to continue with an emphasis in travel by air. Now, our last slide did ask the question, why do travel and transition occasion problems behaviors? Sometimes these behaviors are to be expected. Your baby's first flight can be as momentous as their first step, their first solid food, or their first drop off at daycare. And like these milestones, we can understandably feel a tad stressed beforehand. Here are some helpful tips as we prepare to travel by air. We're going to be looking at preparing, planning, research, packing, flight, and practice. I'm sure you've heard the phrase location, location, location when looking for an apartment or a home. Well, in this case, we're going to be preparing. Preparing our planning are one of the most important things whenever we're going to be doing transitions. We do transitions on a daily when we're dropping off our babies at school or going to grandma's or going to grocery stores. So you can imagine when we're preparing, let's say for that special trip, flight trip that we're going to be making, that this is just as important. Some of these things that we do need to take into consideration is definitely make a list, plan adequate time for, depending on your trip, depending if you're going to be flying out in the mornings, afternoons, or evenings. You want to make sure to have that peace of mind of ensuring that you're planning enough time for that traveling to get through your getting to the gate, passing through security, and then planning for the unexpected, those famous flight delays. So it is very, very important that you plan for also the possibility of behaviors on our babies. What are some of the triggers, the noises, the lights, things like that we need to prepare and make sure that we're jotting down so we don't forget things that are so important to be able to plan ahead for them. Also keeping in mind, if you are traveling to a different time zone, try and stick with where you live right now. If it's here Central Standard Time, even if you go to a different time zone change, try and keep your time that your baby's used to, his naps, his snacks, and his meal times. And like the slide says, there's no surefire way to prepare a baby ahead of time, but we can predict, plan, and pack.
So another component that we have found really helps is researching. So ahead of time, if you can research the airport, research, of course, your destination, just putting that research in front of it kind of helps you at least be prepared, be a little bit more familiar ahead of time. So one of the things that we did want to show you is, for instance, if we look at this DFW website, so you can Google the airport. And so right here it has this interactive map. And so you can kind of just zoom in, but if you know where your terminal is, where your gate is, then you can kind of just, look around and kind of get an idea of where you're going to be. So what's going to be around your gate? One of the things that I love too is it talks about how On this website, you can look up family-friendly amenities. Here, it's specifically a section for kids. For babies, it does state here that there's multiple nursing rooms. So doing this research ahead of time will just kind of help with that transition and preparing. So I know that my baby eats at 3 o'clock on the dot, and that's right in the middle of like when we're waiting to board. Well, here we know that we can go to gate A, B, whatever to find a nursing room. So that also helps. A travel itinerary is something that's really great too. That'll just kind of help prepare. A McDonald's play area, we know ahead of time, okay, you know, maybe little Johnny is going to be kind of amped up. Maybe it's exciting. Maybe he's going to need to get some energy out. There's a play area right there. So just looking around and seeing what kind of options we have if we end up having time to spare or we need to plan to take care of our kiddos. And so these specific examples are just DFW. This was really cool. I actually just saw this last time I flew, but there's an actual whole gameway. So I know a lot of our kiddos are really into electronics. Maybe there's something like that kind of around your gate. So just looking into those options as well will really help.
Okay, and so now we're going to packing. And again, we go back to same as far as to preparing. Do suggest making a list as far as, you know, how many luggage you're going to be taking, your carry-on, making sure you do a count, just like a head count of children. You want to make sure how many bags that you are allowed to take or that you are wanting to take. Why is this important? You can make a separate list for things that you're going to be carrying on the plane for the actual trip, for you and for your child, depending on how you want to split this up, and it would be making more sense for you, of course. Some of the things that you do need to make sure that you have on that list is things that are important. Medications for your child, formula, chargers for your screens, if that's something that is a priority for you. Determining what is going to be making more sense for you. And then, of course, ensuring the necessary essentials, such as a well-stocked diaper, you know, with your formula, your food, enough food to get through that flight if you're having your baby. Diapers, of course, and a very important suggestion would be carrying an extra bag. It doesn't have to be fancy with the scents or not, just something that's going to be practical and handy for you to do that diaper change and toss it. If your baby does use a passy, very recommendation to have those clip-ons, because of course the last thing you need is a pacifier, especially inside an aircraft. Okay, and then that change of clothing. We're always thinking of our babies, which is perfectly fine. Make sure that you have that extra change of clothes with you. But whoever's gonna be that caregiver, dad or mom, taking your baby on that flight, remember about yourselves too, guys. Making sure that you take an extra t-shirt, shorts, or leggings, something that's practical, you know, because accidents are gonna happen, and it's okay. It's okay. No one is perfect. And of course, this world is not perfect. Okay. So just make sure that you also take care of yourselves in that sense. And then also, very important for little ones, you know, you want to think about things that are going to be soothing your baby on flight. For your babies, something that has worked and has been confirmed, it would be that pacifier bottle to avoid that pressure when that plane is either taking off or landing. Their bottle, a favorite blankie. And with babies, you're just hoping that you do get a nice seatmate who can make funny faces for your baby, and that's a big plus when flying. Okay, for your toddlers, you want to consider those highly preferred items, their comfort items. We did some. Miss Kayla had that opportunity of traveling, and we did notice a child in flight. What he only needed was a blanket to put over his face and pretty much tune out the noise from around and that amount of people, of course, in a plane, and that soothed that little one and no problems. I'm not saying it's going to work for all of us, but keep in mind what might work for your baby, taking that little blanket, maybe some sunglasses to avoid the light, and just having focus on his preferred toys and items. Okay. One tip that I do recommend is have your babies, if you're toddlers, they're of school age, help you plan and pack, selecting and putting the things inside that luggage, so it can make it special for them also, and making themselves also feel important that they're part of that trip. Okay. And then one last trick also that I would tell you is stash in a little toy. It doesn't have to be a new toy. It can be maybe a toy that hasn't been seen for about a month. Just wrap it up in whatever type of wrapping paper you have, stash it in your carry-on, and you can take it out when it's midway of that flight, or almost when there's a need to take some type of a distraction. Take it out, and I promise that it's not going to take a whole hour, but at least those extra minutes that will give you peace of mind for your child to be entertained.
So one of the things that really helps with our kiddos here in the clinic that I work at is we call it, priming, preparing, but practicing. So for our kiddos, a lot of these behaviors are happening because it's a lack of awareness. Again, that change, it's something new, right? And our kids are not prepared for that. So if we can practice ahead of time, give them some warning, then that's really going to help them be more prepared for traveling, simple transitions, if it's a dentist visit, anything that we can kind of preach ahead of time and prepare for. So for example, if we're going to talk about flying, I like the dentist example too, because there's some videos, but we can let our kiddos know ahead of time what they can expect. What are they going to experience? Carmen found these books right here. This is just a day at the airport. Here's another one that's called Planes. But reading these books with our kids ahead of time, we're preparing nonstop. We also want to instill that flying and traveling is fun. It's exciting. We want to make this something highly motivating, something highly reinforcing for them. The more buy-in we have from them, the less we're going to see that anxiousness. And then that's also going to decrease the potential for some of those really challenging behaviors. This can be applied anywhere. School, you guys are about to go back to school, our kiddos are. Have them start looking for like a really cool mask to wear at school. Same with the airplane. If you're going to be traveling anywhere, practice them wearing mask at home. You can make it fun. It can be like, okay, I'm going to put my mask on too. Who's going to wear it the longest? But the more motivating, more reinforcing we make it, and the more we practice, that's really going to decrease the potential to see some of those behaviors down the road. There's two other things here that I wanted to show you guys as well. So these are kind of also specific to flying, but again, keep in mind that if you're going to go to a dentist, there are some videos on YouTube about a little boy going to the dentist. What is he going to experience? What kind of tool does that dentist have? And this is what he does with it. So I will show you guys right now. This is what we call, it can be a teaching story, a social story, but just again, anything that can provide some insight as to what they're going to experience. So this was completed by Autism Speaks and JetBlue, but here it's just going to show, it's going to tell a story about traveling. So it can be fun. You may be going on an airplane. We're going to get to the airport. So this really just does a great job of breaking down the steps and what the kiddo is going to experience. Security, hey, there's this big metal thing in there. Getting to the gate. So this is just a great resource to have as well. The bathrooms are tiny. So again, another good resource that you can show with your kiddos. The other thing that I really like, if I can find it, just click on it again. I had it up. Let's see here. Okay. Well, it did have it up. Okay, well, we're just gonna go back to this. If you click on this link right here, this YouTube watch, this is a dad who has a kiddo with autism. So he flew ahead of time for work and he records his whole experience. He breaks it down for the kiddo. So it's, hey, I'm getting to my gate right here. This is where we board the plane. He's got some great like footage of the actual plane so the kids can see how big it is. He goes on to the airplane. He shows them how to buckle the seatbelt and he makes little suggestions like that. So again, just these little preparing and providing these warnings will really help us decrease some of those behaviors.
Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to traveling by ground. Okay. As you all know, travel can be stressful no matter the circumstances, and it's okay. You know, again, nothing won't be perfect. We're striving to have that more of a smoother transition and experience for our little ones. So it's okay. But let's remember to keep in mind to be flexible. Okay. So when traveling by ground, if driving, make sure your car is fully serviced and ready to go. Again, we go back to the first slide, which would be preparing, making a list and making that itinerary as far as how long your trip is going to be taking. That way you can plan those stops, mapping out a journey. You know, what you want to do is more than anything is time to stop, and then making sure that you're able to swap out some, you know, some toys, refill on any snacks, and stretch. But most important, burn some of that energy depending on how long your trip is. Okay, as you begin your journey, remember to have snacks available, which we will be talking here in a little bit about snacks. You would want to aim for healthier options just to avoid a sugar rush. But again, you know what your children's snacks, you know, which are their best ones and favorite ones that will keep them, you know, at ease a little bit longer. So by all means, not saying that you don't want to include those. Okay. For older children, if you're able to, you can go ahead and pack their own individual snacks, you know, in those little Ziploc bags or in those little tumblers that they have for our little ones, just so it can be easier for you as you're taking out those snacks out of your bags. Okay. And moving, backtracking a little bit as you're preparing to make that list, one good recommendation would be is in your vehicle, just to have that back seat, the bottom, the console part, just to have it clear of any luggage or any boxes, just so it can be easier access for you if children drop a toy, or if they drop their sippy cup, or any item that is going to be a preferred item of theirs, so it can be easier for you to pick up. Okay, also very important, always carry a an old towel or a new towel, depending on what your preference is, just to have it ready for any spills or any you know, uh, any accidents that you might happen to happen there in your vehicle. It'll be easier for you to clean up. And then also a bag, any type of bag or a container that's easier for you to put that trash away. Okay. For your toddlers, okay. Also remember I'm sure you have their sippy cups and like their type of munchkin, which is the snack catcher for any spills on the go. So it's easier for them to have those little snacks. Okay. And then for entertainment, I know depending on the trip, you know, if it's a short trip or a long trip, you want to plan activities, games, props, and my favorite would be music. Okay, things that are not going to cost you money. Parents, you know, we already have that expense of that trip that was planned, so you want to use things that are around your house, so you don't have to do that extra expense. Some of the things that you might have on hand that are very, very good to use on a car trip that you're traveling to would be those clingy stickers that you know, those Christmas things that you put on the windows. They don't even, they don't know, like, you know, if they're Christmas or any other holiday or summer stickers, just so they can have putting them on the windows and keep them entertained for a few minutes. Okay. Another thing is, if on their snack bags, if you are taking Ziploc baggies or plastic baggies, you might want to have stickers and have them decorate their own baggie as you know, as you're traveling, just to keep them entertained as well. Also famous your colorings and coloring books. And of course, these are all practical things. If you do decide to use your iPad or iPhone, maybe this is an idea to keep them maybe towards the end. That way you have extra life on those batteries, and you can implement these other activities. And things like such as spy games for your older toddlers. You know, you can play I spy a car or a truck, or then you can implement the colors. You're the green car or the blue car. If you're seeing any type of animals, you know, I spy a cow, and see who can find the next animal on the road. And then very important, another thing that I ask, if you have, and please don't throw if you're traveling, simple things like your paper towel rolls. These are very handy, and it doesn't matter if they, you know, if you don't need them anymore, you can just toss them. They can use them as little, you know, scopes, so they can see things around in their travel to keep them entertained. Another thing would be your flyers, your grocery flyers. Not promoting anyone, just any flyers that you have. You can also do cutouts and have your little ones either paste them either with masking tape or glue, whatever is your preference. I'm just giving you ideas that are easy and ready to go that you can use in your car. And then if by any chance you do have a cookie sheet at home, bring them over. I'm sure you can find those extra pieces of magnets that we have lying around, and have them that's another activity that you can do using the magnets. You can use it also as their little table toppers, so they can color, or they can, you know, scribble on that cookie sheet. And it's okay, if they get dirty, and it's okay if they drop things. Okay. And last but not least, music, singing. Whoever wanted to be a singer, this is your chance, or be in the choir, this is your opportunity. Of course, unless your little one really doesn't want you to sing along. But believe me, there are no music teachers, so it doesn't matter if you're on pitch or not. Just sing along their favorite songs. They don't have to be children's songs, whatever genre or music that they're exposed to. It's just keeping them entertained, and things that are at no cost to you and easy for you to use when you're traveling with your little ones. And now these are some, of course, some snack alternatives. As I mentioned before, you know, your go-to snacks for your little ones as far as their favorites. But these are some snacks that I want to give thanks to our registered dietitian from our program, giving us some healthier snack alternatives, such as having water with fruit slices, water with some fruit ice cubes to change the color, making it a little bit interesting for them. Your fruits, they can be either fresh, dehydrated, or fruit cups. Also fruit snacks, there's some brands there that are of preference. And then also veggies, if it's something that they enjoy, that you can pack, and that they're easier, things that are not perishable also, so you can have one less stressor there when planning. Crackers, you want to try those whole grain crackers. And then your cheeses, like I said, it all depends on the flexibility that you want to give yourselves, as far as, you know, carrying that extra, those ice packs, and making sure that those things are fresh. And one tip, also a recommendation, is maybe choosing a higher carb snack, such as oatmeal, which will keep your little ones full just a little bit longer, but totally understandable. If you're like my kids, before we even probably traveled 2 or 3 miles, pretty much half of the first snacks were gone, because you want to make it fun. You want to, making sure that you time yourselves as how you're giving out these snacks. You don't want their tummies to start hurting, but also you don't want to deprive and say no, for their snacks, because chances are they either saw you or they helped you plan in preparing these snacks. So just time yourselves out in these strips, and like I said, be flexible. Keep in mind the expectations and the child, your child's age. So always make sure that you're flexible.
And then just to highlight on what Carmen is talking about as well, these are all things that we can do in the short term. So when we are maybe having to commute, there's a long commute from, home to school, maybe there's like a little bit of a road trip to go see grandma, it's like an hour. Having these kind of like, I call it on my kids were playing baseball, like an emergency trunk. So I had snacks, water, anything like that I thought they would need, bubbles, chalk, in case we're at the ballpark and my little one was absolutely losing his mind because he's somehow bored outside of the park. So just these short-term things can also help with those transitions, or transitions from maybe like shorter transitions or commutes. Because the more that we can make these kinds of things motivating, reinforcing for them, that is going to decrease a lot of those behaviors. So again, how can I help my kid but maintain my sanity? I think sometimes one of the things that we as parents might overlook, I know that I have, is teaching expected behaviors. Oftentimes I think we assume our kiddo, maybe should know what to do. If our kid is screaming at the dinner table, it would be only natural maybe to become like a little bit frustrated, upset, like what is going on. But we really want to teach them the expected behavior of, hey, just communicate with me what you need. Functional communication. So if our kiddo is, not having a very great time at the dinner table, then we want to teach them, hey, that's okay if you're upset, but let me show you how you can get what it is that you want. Using teaching the expected behaviors is really going to help our kids as well, because we can't assume that they know what they're supposed to be doing. Providing warnings before transitions, that's going to really help as well, just because it's not like a shock. And even if it's something that our kiddos have done time and time again, that warning is just still very necessary. If you think about it from an adult perspective, we use our phones every day. Maybe when it's about to die, it starts beeping. That's your, hey, it's time for you to go get a charger. Same thing with our kiddos, that helps them prepare a little bit more if there is going to be a transition, especially for those transitions that we know are much more difficult for them or much more unpreferred. Just giving them that warning really helps as well. Another thing that we, of course, always tell parents is reinforce and praise. Reinforcement is going to be your end all be all for future motivation. So if I went to work and I wasn't getting paid or reinforced, I'm not going to keep going back to work. So if our kiddos are even just the tiniest little amounts of trying, if they're listening, if they're engaged, then reinforce that behavior and praise them. A lot of our kids love praise. And so if we want to teach something new, or we're experiencing something that has been hard before, but we're starting to see some small, simple little changes or approximations at doing something new or what we would like to see, then we want to reinforce that. And so, one way of doing that is just like these pictures, having some little stickers that they love. Maybe there's a cartoon character they really like. I always tend to gravitate towards superheroes because my boys were convinced that they were Spider-Man and Batman when they were little. Girls could be anything girl-wise as well, but just really reinforcing and praising our kiddos when they are trying. Another thing that I'm a big advocate of and that we really like to use in our field as well are visuals. Visuals kind of just give them something to see. So for example, if our kiddo has a morning routine, and we would expect that they know what they're supposed to be doing. Well, having this visual just really ties that expectation in. So maybe your kiddo is having a hard time. Well, maybe seeing it right in front of them. Okay, I just have to brush my teeth, wash my face, this, and then I'm done. So that kind of provides that end in sight, that if we just do this, we're going to get there. So we do really love visuals because, again, it has that expectation factor of it, so they can see it. They know what's coming, and it helps them monitor kind of themselves as well and where they're at. Okay, so again, these are just some apps that will support the use of visuals. Card talking is great. Maybe you can, I think the ChoiceWorks one is a little bit pricey, but I know that there was an option to do like some schedules on there. So if you're about to make a quick unexpected transition, you could just go in and bam, 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 we're doing this and this and this. You can show our kiddo. That's really going to help deliver our message because they can see it. Card talking is great. We have just this autism emotion one. So there are a ton of apps out there that you can research as well. But you can use those on the road too. So that's what I love about the apps, that carrying around charts and papers, that is very difficult for us as parents. It's not like we have time to make a ton of those things either. So I really am an advocate for the apps and on the go help as well. And then these two down here, Carmen is going to elaborate on.
Yes, and those two apps, those are free to everyone. The CDC's milestone tracker lets you know, depending on the age of your child, hitting those milestones or what the expectations of what to look out for, depending on the age of your child. And then also on Room, there are activities that are, sometimes they're very simple activities that you'll be able to do with your child, or even an idea, daily activities that are given to you. And you can register with information of your child, or you don't have to put their information. It's just something for you to keep track. But very, very good applications for families and with children. Okay, and then we leave you with these two, or actually these three different slides. What most importantly, when traveling or when transitioning from anywhere, we have transitions pretty much happening on a daily basis, and it's okay. It's okay for your babies to sometimes not be okay with those transitions. So you want to make the best of it and be prepared for those. Okay, so just keeping in mind, having kids is a reason to travel, never a reason to stop. And then the next one is here is the beginning of understanding. Most parents are doing their best, and most children are doing their best as well. And they are doing pretty well, all things considered. And the last one is, as your kids grow, they may forget what you said, but won't forget how you made them feel. And just on a side note, as we're talking about transitions and traveling, it just reminded me that all those experiences and memories, they might not have been the greatest when we prepared our own trips, but you know what? Those are things that we will remember always and talk about them and just make the experience and those memories even extra special. And before you know it, you'll have those babies be adults as well, and then they're the ones that are going to be preparing those trips and travels and transitions for us as we get older. And I know they're very, very important, and just don't, unfortunately, time waits for no one. So just go out there and enjoy yourselves with your little ones on those trips. If you're making any trips this summer, or as we're moving forward, but please enjoy your little ones as they're young right now, because time will pass by and those memories are just there forever. Thank you so much.
Well, Kayla and Carmen, thank you so much. We do have some questions if you have some time. The first question I have is, audience members wondered if you would be willing to share your PowerPoint. And just let us know, and if afterwards we can send it out, if you're willing to share that. But on the other side, for a child on the spectrum, what's the best way to react when they self-harm or hit others during travel or transition?
So, especially during travel, that's really hard as well. One of the things that I do like to point out is if you're driving and then you have a kiddo that does start engaging in that self-injurious behavior, we definitely want to pull over. I would recommend leaving them in the car as just to not kind of make any more endangerment. But we just want to protect, we want to block, we don't want them to harm themselves. And we want to do what I would call redirection. So, what is it that you need? Tell me what you need. They might not be verbal, so they might not be able to tell you, but you as a parent have kind of at this point figured out, kind of some form of them communicating what it is that they want. So we want to just redirect them. We want it to be safe. And we do want to keep them from hurting themselves. Again, maybe using some of those visuals would really assist with that. We can provide, hey, this is what we're doing. I would assume that, not assume, but I could guess that maybe some of that behavior could be not being able to communicate what it is that they want. So I would recommend visuals, keeping the kiddo safe, of course, but it does depend on the child and kind of what the function of the behavior is. But that would be a good start.
And also one of the recommendations is, of course, on your child. If you want to focus on your child, as long as he's not hurting the passengers or somebody else, there's no need to apologize for his behavior. You focus on your baby, and that's what matters at that time.
Okay. When I drop my child at therapy, he falls on the floor and refuses to get up. Should I ignore and just leave?
So at the clinical side here at CAM, I would be amazed if we didn't experience that once a day, especially for new kiddos who aren't in the routine yet. But yes, they're probably flopping to the floor as a form of kind of like escape, because, therapy, it's super fun, but we are working on behaviors and we are addressing things that they need. So if you do see the flopping, again, making sure they're safe, but I'm sure the therapist can assist them at getting into the center. But I think not letting them escape from that task of going to therapy is extremely important.
The last question I have are, what are tips for children on the spectrum who throw things in the car? What should we be there to be in their pack to help?
So if you have a kiddo who's throwing items in the car, for starters, I would just make sure that there are no clunky, heavy, harmful objects around them, because the last thing you want is a block the size of who knows what coming out your head when you're driving. Soft toys, if you see a kiddo start engaging in just throwing repetitively, at that point I probably wouldn't even give them anything else, because it's probably a form of attention. Hey, look at me, I really want you to come hang out with me, something like that. So if we are seeing throwing, I would avoid giving them anything. If you do want to give them something to entertain them, I would, give them objects that might be plushy, soft, preferred, but not harmful. So